Okay, so getting back into our coverage over identity crisis, we're going to pick back up again with some more tie-ins. Now, we're going to pick up with some more Firestorm tie-ins, to be more exact, because remember, when it came to identity crisis, in the middle of that event, Firestorm, the original one, had officially died. He was killed off in part 5 of the actual main story. And so with his death, it kind of left the door open to bring in a new Firestorm, and his name is Jason Rush. Now, we have not learned officially how he was able to become the next Firestorm. All we know for Jason is that one night he was doing a run for a drug lord, and unfortunately, he was hit with some kind of blast. And that blast was able to give him the ability to fuse with other people to become Firestorm. Now, today's video is going to continue the idea of Jason learning how to be Firestorm, but also kind of us learning how he was able to become Firestorm. But at the same time, it is officially a tie-in to Identity Crisis, but not really. And you'll see what I mean as we go through today's video. But the opening pages of this book kind of gives us the idea that we're going to see a new character coming after Jason, a character who's going to be his first actual super villain. Some random chick who's very upset at the fact that her roommate had went into her room, but also photos of a man she's currently obsessed with. And apparently that man is no other than Firestorm. But now we're able to jump over to Jason. Now, the opening pages of this book for me personally does a great job in reminding us that for Jason, he's doing all these different kinds of odd jobs. And the reason why, so that he is able to pay his way into college. And so he's trying his best to do anything he can to find some kind of money to hopefully get that money to use for college. Like right now, he's outside wearing a suit, a chicken suit, to kind of help promote a nearby chicken fast food restaurant. Now, we also learned that there's a young girl he's very attracted to, but unfortunately, he's too scared to do anything at all when it comes to, making a move on her. At the same time, it does seem like she has a man. Now, by the time he's able to actually meet the end of his shift and he does run into that same girl, we get reminded that his father is very abusive to him. And let me explain, because while you have Jason trying his best to hit on that young girl he works with, even though she does have a man, you have his father appear. Now, in our last video, we had talked about the idea that his father was really abusive physically. But now we see that it's not just physical, it's also verbal as well. Because you have his father just walk into the restaurant, demanding his son to hurry the heck up and get in the car. He hates the idea of coming all the way to pick his son up from work, but also waiting for his son. And matter of fact, he sees his son trying to hit on the young girl he has a crush on, and he embarrasses his son in front of the young girl. And so he has no choice but to go ahead and get in the car with his father. Now, for Jason, even though he has the power of Firestorm now, you would think like maybe he'll have a tad bit more courage towards his father. He doesn't. He is so scared of the man that even though he has the power to actually knock down his father, he's afraid to do anything at all. But at the same time, he's trying his best to just be there for his father, to have somebody in his corner. Now, later on that night, you actually have Jason just go ahead and sneak out of his father's house because he hates the idea of being locked up in his dad's house, especially with the idea that his dad is abusive. Now, like I said earlier, for Jason to have the ability to turn into Firestorm, he has to fuse with somebody. And so for Jason, he has the ability to fuse with almost anybody out there. And once he does, he turns into Firestorm. And so we see him being able to actually sneak out of his house and find some random homeless man to actually fuse with to turn into Firestorm, so that he is able to just fly around and enjoy the night. But then he runs into Green Lantern. Now, this is John Stewart Green Lantern, who wants to know what in the world is going on when it comes to, well, Jason, because out of nowhere, there's now a new Firestorm, and shortly after the death of the previous Firestorm. And so for Jason, he tells Green Lantern how in the world he became the new Firestorm. Out of nowhere, he was hit with some kind of explosion. With that explosion, it turned him into Firestorm. That's all he knows. And so once he's able to actually tell his story over to Green Lantern, you then have the Martian Manhunter appear. And apparently he was there the entire time just hiding, but also trying to read the mind of Jason to see if he was actually telling the truth. Now, at the same time, our heroes believe that maybe, just maybe, Ronnie Raymond, the original Firestorm, could possibly be inside Jason. But you have Martian Manhunter say, no, Ronnie is not there at all. But our new friend here is hiding something, but unfortunately, I have no idea what. Now, for the Green Lantern, he does leave, but he does tell Jason, like, hey man, listen, you are now the new Firestorm. You got some big shoes to fill in, but if you need any help, here's this small device. Hit it and we'll come to help you anytime you actually need us. Now, for Jason, after meeting Green Lantern John Stewart, you didn't have Jason just fly away to just have some fun, but also to have some breathing room. Now, let's not forget that earlier he did absorb a homeless man to kind of have the ability to turn into Firestorm. But while flying around, he does see a car accident and he goes over to investigate. Now, when he does, he realized that it was a very severe car accident. It's not something that you would be able to actually walk away from. But then he's confronted by a young woman, and her name is Casey Krinsky. Now, when it comes to Casey, this is the same woman we saw earlier who was very obsessed with Firestorm, but also very angry about her roommate going into her room. But apparently we see that Casey was nearby the car accident, and she wants to help Firestorm actually investigate what happened. And she also reveals her powers to Firestorm. Now, for her, she's kind of like the absorbing man over in Marvel Comics for the Hulk, where she's able to turn her body anything she actually touches. So, for example, the concrete on the road, she is able to turn her body into, well, concrete. And so for Firestorm and the homeless man inside his mind, they both realize that maybe, just maybe, that it was Casey who had actually caused this car accident. But the question is now, why? Why would she do that? Now, technically, we know why, because it does seem like she's very obsessed with him, because she does get close enough to him to actually grab him. Now, when it comes to Firestorm, this man is a nuclear ball of energy. So for her to kind of grab onto him, there's a huge flash of energy. And the thing is, her body was trying to absorb his type of energy to see what would happen to her body. And well, unfortunately, she was turning some kind of stone body person now. And so it did seem like she was officially killed off, trying to change her body into his type of energy. And unfortunately, he dropped her into the bay of water. And the question is now, is she dead? Now, as we dive into the next chapter, we kind of move forward with the idea of Jason not being really worried about the woman, it seems like, because he's now back home, but he's also trying to look at the device that was given to him by the Justice League, trying to see what it was actually made out of. But while trying to do that, he's then confronted by his father. Now, the opening pages of this chapter is kind of reminding us that, yes, his father is very abusive, both physically, but also verbally as well. Either way, you do have his dad say, hey, listen, I need you to just go ahead and go to work right now. So let's go, get in the car, and let's go to work at this exact moment. Now, for Jason, while being at work, he overhears a conversation about a woman who's made out of stone out in the middle of the woods. And so for Jason, he knows that has to be Casey Kinsley, the woman he turned to stone in the last chapter. And so his main goal is to go out there to hopefully find her. But now we have to jump over to Alvin, the father of Jason. Now, at first, I thought he was doing some physical therapy, but in reality, he's at the gym just doing his usual workout. Now, while at the gym, he does run into another guy who wants to know if Alvin is okay when it comes to his financial situation. Now, we're getting reminded that for Alvin in the past, he lost his hand at a factory, a job he had to get enough money to take care of his family. But ever since he lost his hand, he kind of been unable to kind of keep a job. And so it does seem like that maybe this guy asking him that question could be a hint, the idea that Alvin is going through a lot of financial problems at the moment. Now, getting back over to Jason, we actually see Jason right now trying to find somebody to fuse with so that he'll be able to turn into Firestorm once again, so that he'll be able to find that woman Casey that he thought he had killed at the end of the last chapter. And so while being in the park, he does run into another person, and her name is Nicole Garcia, who's actually a cop. But either way, he does kind of force her to fuse with him to turn into Firestorm. And so for Nicole, she does get a crash course in the whole idea of being, well, part of him, being the whole Firestorm matrix. But you do have Jason go ahead and fly over to where he heard that Casey could possibly be at. Now, you do have Jason be able to actually find Casey. Now, when he does, he realizes that what he has done to her. Now, it was a complete accident because he's still learning more about his powers. But for Jason, he realized that because his power or his molecules are always changing, when she tried to touch him and absorb his powers or change her body structure to match his, she couldn't because his molecules are always changing. And so it turned her into this crystal but stone-like creature. And right now, she's not stable in the mind. She's talking very monster-like and wanting to kill him off. Now, for Jason, he realized that he is at fault for what happened to her, but at the same time, it was a complete accident. She grabbed him. Now, for Nicole Garcia, the person he has right now in his mind that allowed him to become Firestorm, she realized that he is at fault for what happened to Casey. But either way, you do have the two characters work together to fight against Casey and being able to actually stop her. Now, once he does that, he's kind of wondering what to do with her. But then he remembers that the Justice League gave him a device to use to call them if he ever needs any help. And so he does press it. And so you do have Superman appear. Now, when he does, you have Firestorm realize that he's right now in the presence in one of the top 3 heroes when it comes to the Justice League. He's kind of like, oh my God, this is Superman. Now, you have Clark calling the Flash to take the body of Casey over to Star Labs to get her help. But you then have Clark say, hey, Firestorm, you know what? Fly with me as we head over to San Francisco so that we're able to have a conversation, but to also show you where Star Labs is at in San Francisco. And so you have the two heroes fly over there. Now, while they're flying over there, it's really more Clark saying, listen, we don't know much about you. We have no idea how you were able to gain the powers of the original Firestorm, but we do know one thing. The original one, he was a hero. And so if you're trying to step into his role and be the next Firestorm, you got some big shoes to fill in. I'm telling you right now, use those powers correctly and hopefully and maybe one day you'll be just as good as he was. Now for Garcia, she tells Jason like, listen, that sounds like he was making a threat. He's telling you, better act right, because if you don't, we'll put you down hard and fast. Now, the ending of this chapter is really more of Garcia telling Jason, like, listen, I've been in your mind, and I realize that you want to be a hero, but you're not a hero. First off, you are a kidnapper because you're going around just kidnapping people forcing people to help you become Firestorm. But on top of that, you want to do it a lot more. And it's kind of like you're becoming addicted to the idea of being Firestorm, not the idea of being a hero. Now, the final chapter we have to talk about is issue number 6 of the Firestorm series. Now, in the opening pages of this book, it kind of begins the whole idea of us learning what exactly happened to Ronnie that led into Jason becoming the next Firestorm. Because we jump over to Ronnie, right? The moment he died in Identity Crisis issue number 5, where he was fighting against the Shadow Thief. And you had the Shadow Thief being able to actually stab Firestorm, and with him being stabbed, he was going to explode very soon. And so what he did was he flew up in the sky and, well, exploded. And so when he did that, we were left to believe that Ronnie had officially died. But it seems like he was turning some kind of energy, and that energy had flown right into Jason. And let's not forget, at the very beginning of this Firestorm series, we saw Jason be hit by some kind of blast and became the next Firestorm. And so we're kind of left to believe that thanks to Ronnie's death, but also being turned to energy, when he was energy, it went to Jason, turning Jason into the next Firestorm. We kind of learn about that origin through Jason having a nightmare. And so once his nightmare is officially over and he's able to wake up, he's then confronted by his abusive father, who then tells him like, hey man, listen, I need you to go ahead and clean the gutters. And so you have Jason get up and begin to work on those gutters. Now, that is the moment where, while you have Jason outside trying to work on the gutters, he's then confronted by his best friend, Mick. Now, when it comes to Mick, he's at college, the same college that Jason wants to go to, the same college that Jason is trying his best to get enough money to at least attend a semester or possibly two at that school. But for Jason, he has not contacted Mick in a good while. Now, when it comes to Mick, the last time he talked to Jason was when Jason was trying to work for a drug dealer so that he'll be able to get enough money to pay for college. So for Mick, he has no idea that Jason has now become the new Firestorm. And so you have the two guys get in a car where you have Mick just trying his best to get into the actual secret that Jason is trying to hide. And for Mick, he knows his best friend. They're like brothers. He's all like, dude, you're lying to me. You're telling me that everything is A-OK, but in reality, everything is not A-OK. What are you doing? What are you hiding? Matter of fact, I feel like you're going out of control. And as soon as Mick says that, you have Jason say, you know what? You're right. I am going out of control. And so you then have Jason fuse with Mick to kind of show him that he is the new Firestorm. Now for Mick, he kind of understands what Jason has been going through, the whole idea of now being the new Firestorm. But also he realized that Jason is very upset because now Mick is connected to Jason's mind with the two of them being fused with one another. And so with Jason now being so upset, he needs to blow off some steam. And so you have Jason go out of his way to show off his abilities to two models who are currently going through a photo shoot, but kind of showing them like, listen, if you get with me, you're getting with somebody who has powers. Now, really, this moment right here is not really important because you didn't have Jason just fly away. But the next moment is, for me, a tad bit more important. Now, you do have Jason go after a cop. Now, when he does, it's really him going after this cop for something he did in the past. You see, this cop had attacked two young boys who were basically innocent, two young boys who were minorities. But apparently, this cop believed they weren't so innocent, and so he beat them badly. And so this is Jason saying, you know what? I'm coming here to tell you, you need to quit your job. Matter of fact, you are going to quit your job for what you did to those young boys who did not deserve what you did to them. It was completely wrong. And so you have Jason use the powers of Firestorm to actually scare this cop into actually quitting the next day. Now, it does lead into Jason and Mick finally having a conversation with one another. Because now it's Mick kind of having that full on understanding of what Jason has gone through in the last few, let's say, weeks. The whole idea of him being the new Firestorm. Now, for Mick, he wants to meet the rest of the league. Besides Superman, who else can they meet? And so you have Jason say, you know what? I believe I have the ability to breathe in space. Let's go ahead and fly over to the watchtower, and hopefully we'll be able to meet other people who are part of the league. Now, when you have Jason and also Mick arrive at the watchtower, it's really more of them being confronted by both Batman and Martian Manhunter. Now, we do have our two heroes telling Jason that originally the reason why they came to him is to see how he was able to become the next Firestorm. And they tell us that when it came to Ronnie, when he did explode, like I said earlier, he was turned into energy. That energy hit Jason, turning Jason into the next Firestorm. But our heroes were also hoping that maybe, just maybe, a piece of Ronnie was kind of living inside Jason. And honestly, that would make a lot of sense, because if you are saying that for Ronnie, he was turned into energy that hit Jason, then maybe a part of him is actually inside of Jason. But you didn't have Martian Manhunter tell us, no. When it comes to Jason, it's just him in there. There is no Ronnie at all. Now, for Batman, he knows what Jason has done in the last couple of hours. The models, the police officer. And so it's Batman saying, listen, if you are trying to be the next Firestorm, again, you have some big shoes to fill in. But at the same time, as a hero, what you did earlier is completely wrong. Be better, or again, we'll hunt you down and take you down. And so you have Jason just go back over to Earth. Now, something else I kind of forgot to mention is that when it comes to Jason being Firestorm, once he's done being Firestorm, the person he used to fuse with to become the hero, they forget as soon as he is unfusing with them. And so for Mick, once he's able to unfuse with Mick, Mick does not remember anything when it comes to being Firestorm, but also what happened before he turned into Firestorm. So he has no idea that he came over to Detroit to have a conversation with his best friend. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.